The Pesky Report is sponsored by High and Happy Catering out of Springfield, Massachusetts. Their chef, Michael Best, can cook anything you want with or without being infused with cannabis. Check out some of what they make on their Instagram at High and Happy Catering or call them at 413-785-8999. You'll be happy you did.
Welcome to the Pesky Report, a podcast for Red Sox fans. What's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon Brewer, and I am here for the Pesky Report, talking about the one and only Boston Red Sox. Joining me today is the long-distant, 4 times by marriage, twice removed cousin of Brad Hand, Mr. Ed, and the enigma known only as Hogdale. Gentlemen, what is going on?
Phenomenal. Let's go.
I want that opening every time.
If I can remember it, and I'm sure eventually it's going to be like your grandmother's cousin's. You know, I'll add to it. We'll get there eventually. This is going to be the Sunday lineup for the 2022 season, ladies and gentlemen. So get used to us on Sunday coming live after the game is over. So this will be a good chance for us to kind of build some chemistry and get to know one another a little bit better. So guys, we just finished up the game against the Minnesota Twins, in which the Red Sox ultimately lost in the very end. And, you know, it is what it is. It's spring training. But what do you think about this game? We saw that the Red Sox got out to a bit of a lead, but then they were unable to hold on to it, unable to keep that lead. So, Ed, I know you were watching along with me on that game. What did you think? Is Sawamura going to be this sore spot all season long?
Oh, that's a tough question, just because, you know, like you said, it's spring training, so people are trying to figure stuff out there. But he was pretty inconsistent last year. The control has really been an issue for him, and the long ball wasn't exactly great either. He wasn't, if you look at like his ERA and his strikeouts and that stuff, he was okay last year. He was actually pretty good, but just not to be trusted. And it seems like there were a few guys in the pen with that kind of profile between him and we saw today Jake Dickman was also pretty inconsistent with the control. Darwin's and Hernandez, we know, has had that issue. So, you know, I think that it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm not that worried. You know, it's March 27th, so I don't think that it's worth really like getting too upset about. But, you know, come mid-April, things could be a little different.
Hogdale, are you hitting the panic button on these crops of relievers that were not able to hold together a lead for the Red Sox today?
Oh, yeah. I think I really speak for the whole fan base. This team's full of bums. They suck. We're hitting the panic button. They lost a spring training game. What the fuck are we even doing, fellas? Jesus Christ. No, but really, though, like, fucking Sawamura's, he was really solid for most of the year last year. He was actually their go-to guy with runners in scoring position, or just runners on base in general, for a good chunk of the season. And at the end of the year last year, he kind of started melting down. In the playoffs, he was almost a non-option. So it's a little disheartening to see him like this in the spring, but he has the ability to not be terrible. So I'm going to believe in his ability to not be terrible, that it will come back in the future.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He was kind of a reliable arm out of the bullpen last season, but like Ed said, he does have his ups and downs, and he is going to have these days where he cannot find the strike zone, much like Darwinson Hernandez, who in his first appearance this spring struck out the side, breezed through an inning, and then since then he's looked like crap. So it's one or the other with these guys, and that's ultimately what does make me nervous about these guys, we don't have somebody who's going to come out there and be nails almost every single time that they come out there. Yeah, we have Whitlock. Yeah, we have some of these other guys out of the pen that are good. Matt Barnes will come out there and be good until about the All-Star game, and then he'll fall off and be terrible. And it is what it is. These are facts. And the bullpen is really what's kind of always been the Achilles heel of this team, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think about the starting rotation? Are they going to be able to get out there and give the Red Sox 6-7 innings every single day and limit the amount of bullpen? Or are we going to have a lot of these games where the bullpen is going to be what we need in order to overcome?
I think that's a little bit of a tricky question because we don't even really know what the rotation looks like right now. Good point. We've got Sale starting the year hurt, so he's not, let's just take him out of that right now. But even then, we know there's Ivaldi is going to be the number one guy. Then we've got probably Nick Pavetta in the number 2 spot right now. And then Cora, I believe, said that Houck was going to start the season in the rotation. So that's 3 spots that are kind of, like they know what they are. But then we've got Rich Hill. We've got Michael Wacha. We've got Garrett Whitlock, all people that could potentially start. I'm pretty big on the Garrett Whitlock in the rotation bus. We saw him start today and really didn't look any different than bullpen Whitlock. Granted, only 3 innings, so kind of tough to say until you see the guy go 5 if he's still going to be viable there. But I did like what I saw. A lot of these guys are getting stretched out for like 3-inning pushes, though. Like Darwinzon Hernandez, right. They're using as a 3-inning guy moving forward, it looks like. We saw that yesterday with, excuse me, sorry, I swallowed wrong, with Phillips Valdez had a 3-inning save yesterday. So it does seem like they might be going with something like that as well, where you have a bulk reliever or something like that. I feel like Matt Strom is somebody that could potentially use that way as well.
Yeah, you're right. And, it was interesting. You mentioned that Whitlock got the start today, and then one of the guys that came in relief later in the game was Rich Hill, who is slated right now as a starting pitcher. So that's kind of interesting that Cora used him like that here in spring training. It could be one of those things where we see like piecing together games early on in the season because we don't have a solidified rotation right now with Sale being out injured and just all the question marks that are running around in there. But 2 guys that we know for sure that are going to be starters, Nathan Ivaldi and Nick Pavetta, both looked pretty good this spring, which is a definite good thing for the Red Sox.
Man, if Nate can come out and like just have another year like he did last year, would be just so huge. The way that he's been able to stay healthy these last few years has just been such a positive development. Like on a championship team, obviously he'd be your number 2. Like being a number 1 on your team, it's kind of a yike. And God, I hope Chris Sale can come back after breaking his ribs and what I can only assume was an intense core workout. I just hope he can come back and look somewhat great. I'm kind of pessimistic on Chris Sale right now. I want him to come back and shove, but at the same time, like last year he had like a 3 ERA, like what was like 3.17, 3.20, something like that. But he was getting hit a ton. And like it didn't seem like the way he was pitching was sustainable. So I'm a little worried about this rotation going forward. But if this rotation can do what they did last year and just pitch good enough, and where enough guys are playing over their head, the bats can carry. Because there are some pretty solid bullpen pieces there, especially if they do keep Whitlock in the pen or move Houck to the pen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there are pieces in play. It will be interesting to see what happens whenever Chris Sale does come back, if he does come back healthy, because if he comes back and he's the Chris Sale from 2018 and finally we get that guy back, then 1, 2, and 3, your starting pitchers are going to look a lot different. That's going to give these relief pitchers a lot of needed rest, especially as we get into the dog days and down the stretch of the season where they'll be still fresh. Their arms will come out there and they'll still play. a lot of times with these teams that rely on bullpen arms, by the time it gets to late September, early October, those arms are starting to wear out, and then they get lit up in the playoffs. And that's not the time that you want to get beat around. Just to talk a little bit of the stats a little bit, in the 2 starts for Nathan Ivaldi this year, he's only worked 7 innings. They're limiting him, trying to ramp him up, but he's got 9 strikeouts in that amount of time, giving up a few runs, a few hits here and there, but it's not been anything too major. And then Nick Pavetta has looked absolutely amazing in 6 2/3 innings with 11 Ks. This guy, him being on this team is a marvel in and of itself because of the master stroke that Heimblum did to bring him over to the team and dumping Brandon Workman and I'm drawing a blank on the
Heath
other name.
Hembry.
Yeah, Heath Hembry, the legend.
The legend of Heath Hembry. Yeah.
Danny McBride lookalike Heath Hembry.
Yeah, they dumped 2 like mediocre bullpen pieces for like a dude with actual potential.
Yeah.
Like that's trash into treasure if I've ever seen it.
And like you mentioned in the text message, Hogdale, getting Paxton back mid-season ish will be a big piece as well. That will play kind of like how it did last year with Chris Sale, where you're going to be bringing back a starting pitcher at the trade deadline timeframe, and you don't have to trade anything or spend a lot of money to get him. So that's another like signature Heim move right there, is bring a guy in to stash him for later. It worked out pretty well with Sale last year, making a push in the playoffs. It also worked pretty well with Kyle from Waltham joining the team and being injured, and then coming out and mashing some dingers in the postseason.
Does anybody else, when they see Ivaldi like throwing like it's mid-season in the first spring training game of the year, get a little nervous? Like, guy, you've already had like 2 Tommy John surgeries. You're finally healthy. Don't overdo it, buddy.
No, Nate's he's just built different. He just knows like what fucking Tommy John can't stop me. What, I'll get a 3rd one. Watch me.
I don't know if you guys remember or not, but a few years back, whenever Charlie Sheen had his big public meltdown, and he had
that was awesome.
That interview in which he was talking about how he had tiger's blood and all this kind of stuff.
Winning.
There was one, yeah, that's the one. There was one quote from that interview where he said, "I've got 1 speed, 1 gear, go." That's Nate Ivaldi.
Yeah,
hands down. He only knows go. Like, he's not going to go out there and be soft with it. He's not going to go out there and, avoid trying to ramp up the fastball. He's like, no, I'm trying to hit triple digits on my slider. I'm trying to hit triple digits on my changeup. Everything is coming at you hard.
I don't think I've heard a quote that ever has screamed more "I am doing cocaine" than that one. I'm only 1 speed. Go.
That's it.
It's so true.
Charlie Sheen, that man was electric.
He was winning, dude. Like, there's no doubt about that he was winning.
But one of the things that we wanted to talk about on the show today was some of the standout performances of spring training. Of course, we haven't gotten to see the standout performance that is Trevor Story as of yet, because he's been with the team all of 5 minutes and has already requested time off.
What a bomb.
Yeah.
You can say that it's a storybook appearance for Trevor Story when that finally happens.
Oh my God.
And of course, the reason that he's not with the team yet is because he's, I guess, a new father. He took some paternity leave. His kid happened to be born days after he signed with the team, and just like a day before he was expected to make his Red Sox debut in spring training. So the team understood the circumstance, let him go and be with his newborn child, and he should be back this week in the next coming couple days. So don't fear.
All I'm gonna say is real men abandon their children. Like, let's be real. Come on now. Like,
I was about to say, Hogdale's looking at this like, do you have any idea how many of my kids I've never met?
Yeah, listen,
come on, Trevor.
You got to get them on that grind set early. Well, you want them to rely on others. You gotta. It's cold out here, dude. Gotta grind.
The opinions of Hogdale do not reflect those of the entire Pesky Report.
What's funny is that there are actual people in real life who comment that and are serious. And it's like, yeah, how dare this bum miss a game? Like, yeah, he had a kid. Leave him alone. It's crazy. It's almost like it's more important than baseball.
It's not more important than baseball. It's not more important than a spring training baseball game at all. But what kind of impact is that going to have in the regular season? They're saying now that he may have a few days off at the beginning of the season, and that'll kind of get him acclimated, get him up to real game speed a little bit, at his own pace, rather than just throwing him in there and expecting him to perform in real games. To me, that says Christian Arroyo is going to be the man that's going to be plugged into second base while Story is getting acclimated, which if that's your backup plan, I'm good with it, because when healthy, that dude is a stud.
I love me some Christian Arroyo. It's literally like, just stay healthy. Dude, I'm begging you. He's so fun. Like, he's oozing with personality. He rakes when he's up. He's clutch too. He had some really cool moments last season. And then every time he starts to put it together, boom, another knick-knack injury, and he's out for like a fucking few weeks. I just want him to stay healthy. That's all we need.
Yeah, I think that it's good for Arroyo to be getting the regular at-bats because he's been getting reps in right field. So I think that we're going to be seeing him getting not regular, like 5 times a week, but he's going to get to play and be in the lineup. So it's good that he's getting his swing ready. And as for Story, it's a new position for him. The whole offseason was pure chaos. So yeah, fine. Take your time with him.
Yeah. No need to rush him and then break your new toy before he actually gets a chance to be played with. With Arroyo, though, you mentioned he's been playing right field a lot. He's been getting some reps at second base. When he's in the lineup, he's a productive hitter. I think this bat is going to be too valuable for the Red Sox to keep on the bench all season. I could definitely see a scenario where he and JBJ are platooned in the outfield. We know we don't want JBJ to play 140 games because the bat just doesn't really play, but the defense kind of makes up for it. So I could see a situation where JBJ plays right field at Fenway, but on the road, we have a combination of Arroyo and Martinez.
That's smart. I hadn't thought about it specifically Fenway versus non-Fenway for right field. I was looking at it more lefties and righties, but yeah, no, I think that very well could be the case. I'm okay with JBJ getting into 140 games or more. I just don't want him starting most of those. He can finish in right field and
the late game defensive replacement.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I'm good with that. Yeah,
he's probably the highest paid late game defensive replacement in the history of baseball.
I mean, you put him in key spots to steal bases because dude has some jets, and then you leave him in as a defensive replacement. It makes perfect sense. Like, that's a very valuable and smart way, frankly, to use JBJ this season.
If he gets hot, I think he can still be an offensive contributor. He was terrible, almost useless as far as his season goes, 2021. But he was probably the best hitter on the Red Sox overall in 2020. And I know that was a Mickey Mouse season where they didn't have real pitching and, were pretty much just ass all around. But he can still, I think that there's still a little more. I don't think he's a 163 hitter like he was last year. I think he's probably closer to like a 240, 15 home run kind of guy.
God, that 2020 season. I'm so glad that was a shortened season. Imagine having to sit through 162 game of that 2020 pitching staff, dude. Like,
you mean you didn't like hearing Zach Godley grunt?
Dude, I was dying watching that team. It was terrible. I remember going into that season all wide-eyed, like, okay, guys, let's do it. And just fucking that product. It was so bad. That's one of the worst pitching staffs I've ever seen. Probably the worst that the Red Sox have ever fielded in my lifetime, honestly.
It was one of those things, like, everybody was so bummed that the 2020 spring training got canceled, and then the first 100 games of the 2020 season were gone. And then whenever you finally got down to it and they're like, okay, we're going to get back and play a 60 game season. After you saw a few games as a Red Sox fan, you're like, nah, we're just punting this one, aren't we?
I think that was when people started realizing that Ivaldi might be a little better than we thought he was. Because remember, he had that really good first game. They won 14-1. Everybody was like, "Oh, wow, maybe we're not so bad." And it turned out nobody else in the rotation could throw. But he wasn't bad that year, Ivaldi.
Nate was like the meme with like the Lamborghini inside like the mud next to the mud hut. Like it was that's water in a desert. Like just that's the oasis was Nathan Ivaldi in just a desert of terrible pitching.
That's pretty spot on because the 2020 Red Sox, that's a very forgettable team except for Nate being out there doing his thing. A lot of these guys, they come out and they have notable spring trainings. Like JBJ had a very good spring training a few years back. And then whenever it gets to the regular season, it kind of gets lost. And then you have people saying like, oh, he can't even hit at the big league level. We've been watching a guy named Ryan Fitzgerald, Fitz Magic 2.0, out there absolutely raking this spring. Is this something that can continue, or is this just a spring training enigma that will be a flash in the pan in the grand scheme of things?
Oh man, so I love guys like Ryan Fitzgerald, and the reason for that is that he has had to work for everything in his career. He was undrafted out of Creighton, so he was already through college, and then at the age of 23, played indie league ball before finally getting picked up by the Red Sox. He didn't even do that well in indie league. That's the kind of the wild thing. They really hit 239 there, but they obviously saw something in him, and he ended up on Greenville, did a pretty good job there, and he's kind of steadily worked his way up through the minors. He's, I believe, 28 now, made it up to Worcester for a little bit last year, but was mostly in AA. Had a pretty good season in AA. He hit 271, 351 on base percentage, 505 slugging percentage. That's 30 doubles, 13 homers. So he can obviously hit a bit. He draws a few walks, and they've really been grooming him as a utility guy. So he plays a little bit of everything except catcher and pitcher. So you have somebody there, little on the old side, 28, but he does everything fairly decently. Jack of all trades, master of none type player. But I think that he's not going to be a guy who's hitting 4 home runs in like a week or something like that for the most part. But he's somebody that can help your team out just because of that super utility ability and, like the no true weakness in his game, even if there isn't like one skill that stands out above all others.
The one skill that truly stands out above all others with this guy is his ability to grow some good moss.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a fair point. That is a very fair point. That is a head of hair that man has.
The mullet is absolutely amazing, and they said on the broadcast today that he's a hockey player playing baseball, which kind of made me a little bit happy because I could see that mean old mullet skating around on some ice. Hogdale, what's been your opinion of Fitzmagic for the Red Sox this year?
They laughed at me when I said he was Ted Williams reborn. They laughed. And then meanwhile, I sit here behind my my comically large villain chair as I turn around. Like, yeah, it's cool. He's been a nice surprise. I hope he makes the team just for his sake. It'd be cool to see him as a super utility guy. Obviously, this kind of run is unsustainable. I mean, if he did do this in the regular season, he'd just be one of the best players in baseball. So I don't think it's going to happen. Like, it'd be pretty cool if it did, but be happy to see him. Good for him.
Yeah,
good for Fitzy.
The exposure doesn't hurt him at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think when you guys had the Van Bell interview a few weeks back, he said something that really stood out where he was talking about when you're playing Major League Baseball or professional baseball at any level, you're really playing for every team because everybody's watching you. And for guys like Fitzy to go out there and have a really good spring, other clubs are taking notice. So his trade value and his value as a human being is going up right now because of the fact that he's out here balling. If for some reason he's not able to be plugged into the Red Sox long term, somebody is seeing this and will be like, okay, we could use this guy somewhere.
That's a very good point. And it actually, I think it's worth saying that he's not on the 40-man roster right now. And we had him on Sox prospects listed as somebody that was a candidate to get taken if there had been a Rule 5 draft this year, because he can he's not really going to he doesn't really have a lot more maturing to do. And he can immediately help a team out just because of the versatility. So yeah, it's that whole thing about trying out for every team really is true. of course, the 40-man roster thing, there is some competition for what really amounts to two position players left to make the team. And it's probably going to be a competition between Fitzgerald, Travis Shaw, Rob Refsnyder, Yolmer Sanchez, Jonathan Arauz. I think that it's interesting because the guys on the 40-man do have a little bit of an advantage there because you don't have to shuffle them around as much. But, if it's just clearly that much better of a fit, they'll find something. And then there are also going to be injuries, and you'll need people to fill it when that happens. So I would put money on a Ryan Fitzgerald debut in the majors this year, even if it's not on the opening day roster. I think that unless he gets hurt, he'll find a spot.
Yeah, that's a pretty good call. I think I could see it as well. And even if it's not with the Red Sox, like you said, he could be one of those Rule 5 guys that ends up, making a 40-man roster with a lot of other clubs out there that are in need of good utility guys. Cause this guy's played infield. He's played outfield. He can obviously hit. Left-handed bats are always welcome. So very valuable guy right now. Let's see. One of the interesting conversations that we've had in the Pesky Report thread, and Ed, you alluded to it earlier whenever you were talking about you're a fan of Whitlock being in the rotation, was we had a very lengthy conversation about Houck versus Whitlock. And it seemed like a lot of people were kind of torn. Some people were very much in favor of Houck being the starter. A lot of people were in favor of Whitlock being the starter. Do you think this is a situation that we could see unfold, or has Alex Cora pretty much already said Houck's a starter, Whitlock's a bullpen guy?
That's an interesting question because, if he's saying that Whitlock's a bullpen guy, why are you giving him 3 innings today in the start? I think that the possibility is open. I don't think we're going to be seeing Houck in the bullpen at least to start the year. I think that, and honestly, as much as I think he'd be a really good 2-inning relief guy, I think he's earned the chance to be a starter. I think what he did last year down the stretch run against Washington was really clutch, and he's earned that. So we'll see what happens with him in the rotation. But I don't think that excludes Whitlock necessarily either. I think that there is honestly enough room in the rotation for both of them. I think that you could use Waka in the pen. You could use Hill potentially in the pen. Or you could go with a 6-man rotation. You could go with one guy gets 5 innings, one guy gets 4 innings. There's a lot of possibilities. It's not a bad problem to have.
You're absolutely right. This little bobblehead bottle opener that's right here that I'm pointing at for the viewers to be able to see, that is a Tampa Bay Rays pitcher, Ryan Stanek. And if you press a button on it, it says, in 2018, the Rays revolutionized the game of baseball by introducing a concept known as the opener. And it's kind of funny that it's a bottle opener and it says that.
That's actually really funny. You really like that.
The opener concept is something that the Red Sox could employ with these type of pitchers. You mentioned Waka, Houck, Whitlock. These guys, they seem dominant over 2-3 innings, but it's whenever they get into the later time seeing these batters, the second time through the lineup, the third time through the lineup for Houck has been notably terrible compared to the first couple of trips. So maybe this is something that Cora is aware of, and that's why he's giving them multiple innings now to get them built up for that, and not just like, okay, you're the 8th inning guy, you're the 7th inning guy. Baseball's changed.
Yeah, honestly, the way that this Red Sox team is built, it really is built for a lot more of those opener type string together bullpen games where you have a lot of guys who can maybe give you a few innings, but you don't trust to be a full starter. As for Whitlock, exactly as to echo your guys' points, last year he only came in really when for a clean inning, and then he always went 2 or 3. So they were clearly in the long run thinking this guy can be a starter eventually. We want to stretch this guy out for maybe the future. And Whitlock, I believe he led the Red Sox relievers in innings last year. It was just a fantastic option out of the pen. I really am not at all adverse to seeing him in the rotation. I think his stuff really can play. Obviously, I'm happy to see Houck there as well. He might end up getting moved back if he can't figure it out the third time through the rotation. I don't like it when people say like automatically, like if you have 2 pitches, you can't be a starter when in recent times, it's just not true. Kevin Gausman throws 80% fastballs or splitters. Glasnow for the Rays throws 80% fastballs or curveballs. And there's one more. Robbie Ray won the Cy Young last year throwing 80% fastballs and sliders. So if the 2 pitches are good enough, you can. Like if Whitlock or not Whitlock, if Hal can like figure out his control later in the games because he kind of gets sloppy late in games as well, and a 3rd pitch can help offset that. But like if he truly just becomes dominant enough with the fastball slider, he can make it work.
Yeah, that's I think it's a good point that having 2 pitches doesn't guarantee that you can't be a starter. I think that with Hauk, at least from my standpoint, we've seen what happens when he has to go around that 3rd time. We've seen what happens after the 5th inning. So I think he's absolutely earned the chance to start the season as a starter. I just think that if he does end up struggling, I don't think the bullpen is necessarily going to be a terrible fit for him. With Whitlock, it's just that he has 4 pitches, and he like that changeup he didn't have when he was a starter in the minors. He got that when he moved to the bullpen with the Red Sox. Matt Andrees taught him it. So that's an entirely different weapon that he never had as a starter before. So I just think he just fits too. This is notwithstanding of how whether or not he's in the rotation. I just think he's. It's like putting Ivaldi in the bullpen because he's like, well, he's a really good pitcher. Let's just throw him in then he'll be unhittable 1 inning a game. And it's like, yeah, but wouldn't you rather get 6 2-run innings out of him? I don't know.
Yeah, but we also live in a time whenever Chris Sale came out of the bullpen to close out a World Series game. So we do see some pretty crazy things from time to time. To me, I still think it's just unfortunate that we didn't get your 27th cousin, Brad Hand, to come and pitch for the Boston Red Sox, because that was something that I really was hoping for in free agency this year. Another guy that's kind of been standing out and definitely stood out in today's loss against the Minnesota Twins is Jarren Duran. Early in spring training, he said that he's ready to go out there and have fun this year. Last year, he had all the pressure in the world on his shoulders because he was such a highly touted prospect. He wanted to come out there. He wanted to be the guy right away. This year, he's kind of taken a more, backseat approach to where he's like, okay, I'm going to let my skill set play. He's gotten more familiar with playing the outfield. Is this a guy that we could see come up to the major league level and make an impact this season as opposed to where we saw him last season?
Oh man, my boy Cougar Bait is just making those older women happy. It's interesting with Duran because he came up to the majors last year, and I think people were really expecting him to take off like he had at the beginning of the year's first season in AAA, because he was, he went ripshit. He was hitting home runs, he was stealing bases, hitting for decent average. But the thing with the power is that actually is a fairly recent change for him. He figured out how to do that during like the lost season, 2019, 2020. There were swing adjustments that happened, and people are going to catch up to you with that. You have to be able to adapt to it. And I think he probably pressed a little bit too hard. But I think that he's going to be the first guy up if there's an opportunity for the outfield. I don't know if he's going to make the team out of spring training simply because I think that they want him to get, just get his reps in, and he's not going to get that on the bench, even though you saw today scoring from second base on a fly out. The kid has wheels. He's one of the fastest runners I've ever seen. Just a total freak as far as that's concerned. And he's also just incredibly popular. That's something that if I want that serotonin high of posting, when I'm posting on Sox prospects, I'll do a Jarren Duran thing and I'll just get like 200 likes and feel great about myself. So, that's the fan base really likes him.
Noted. I'll have to start pumping out more pesky report graphics with Jarren Duran on it.
Well,
go ahead, Hogdale.
The dude's just, it's like you said, speed-wise, we haven't seen a dude who can run like him probably since Jacoby Ellsbury. This dude can fly. He really just has to hit mediocre, and he'll make a big impact on the big league team just with his speed. Even if he's a bench guy, like to be able to pinch run a guy like that in a clutch situation would be so massive. I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he can figure it out. I saw he made batting stance adjustments, swing adjustments this offseason. He's coming here to have fun. I'm hoping the best for him, and I really hope he can make an impact on this team, and I think he can.
You know, you did make a good point. Even if he doesn't get called up all summer long, when the expanded rosters for the postseason happens, that's a guy that will definitely get plugged in there just for those base running abilities. And Ed, you alluded to it, but I'm going to go ahead and show the clip right now from today's game where he scored from second base on a sac fly. You know, the old saying is every time you go to the ballpark, you'll see something you've never seen before. This is something I have never seen before. Notice the score. Boston 0, Minnesota 1. This is Duran right here on second base. And the ball is going to get hit to deep center field, and he's going to tag up and score. It's absolutely unreal. I've never seen a guy even attempt this. And he's going to come into your picture here in just a moment and slide across home plate. Amazing.
Just absurd.
Absolutely amazing.
That's built different speed. Just built different.
Yeah, and that's an absolutely great call, Hogdale, that we haven't seen elite speed like that since Jacoby Ellsbury. And that dude, whenever he was in his prime, he was swiping 50, 60, 70 bags a season. And he was like, to quote Eck, he was stealing bases just to stay in shape.
It's interesting with Duran there because his base stealing instincts aren't quite what Ellsbury's were, even though he has that same just pure plus speed. Mm-hmm. But it is the kind of speed that allows you to force teams to make a mistake and to get, to post a very high batting average on balls in play, just because the team, if you hit a ground ball to third, that guy's rushing like crazy. That's how you end up knocking in 2 runs, just because he just completely misses it. He overthrows it. He takes his eye off of it. You can force mistakes just by having that presence.
That's a very good point. Yeah, the speed is a difference maker, not just stealing bags or whatever, but force an errant throw, and then next thing you know, you've got more guys in scoring position that shouldn't have been there in the first place. That's a guy that I'm excited to keep an eye on as spring progresses and as the season progresses, because with injuries that are inevitable in Major League Baseball, that's a guy that I could definitely see coming up and making a big impact. We have also this spring seen a few notable debuts. We talked about Trevor Story, and that's the one that everybody's waiting on. But we have seen the debuts of a couple other acquired free agents in Matt Strahm and Jake Diekman. And both of them haven't been as prosperous. Is that the word I'm looking for? Haven't been as wonderful as we all hoped that they would be. But is there hope for these guys?
With I'm just looking up Strahm's pitched fine. He's only had 1 appearance, struck out 2, hit a guy, walked a guy. So that to me is not the end of the world there. He's coming back from some knee injuries stuff, and he's been good in the past with the Padres. It's not an arm injury he was dealing with. So I think Strahm definitely has a shot at being a serviceable pitcher. Diekman is, it's what we saw today is kind of just something that's the Jake Diekman show. He's going to have games where he can't hit the strike zone or people aren't chasing. He's also going to have games where he's striking out 3 people and looking unhittable. That's what he's been for most of his career, and I don't see why that would change now. So, it's kind of just who he is. I don't think that there were people when they signed him who were like, oh, well, he's the new closer. And it's like, no, he's not. He should not be a closer.
People forget what it was like to have a closer that got erratic, because if you remember, the reason that Chris Sale closed out the World Series was because they didn't trust the closer that was on the roster at that time.
Yeah, Craig Kimbrell was melting down in that 2018 postseason. He
Very
was
much so.
Completely rough, almost unplayable. In general, he was really bad.
And that, to Ed's point, that's kind of what you get out of Jake Diekman all season long. But it's worth noting, in the last 3 years, he has 58 holds, which leads all of Major League Baseball. So he can go out there and give you clutch innings. Red Sox Nation just hasn't seen it this spring. So, of course, they've got the pitchforks ready.
Yeah, I don't. I actually got somebody like I wrote a retweet to me that was like, it's been like this every game for him, and I was like, he's thrown two. I responded, he's thrown two spring training games, and this guy wrote back, that's too many. Which honestly, like, okay,
Well played.
at least you're funny. But
I mean,
Well
like,
played.
yeah, like I don't take too much stock in any spring training games. Like, honestly, it's just a weird time. Like, a lot of guys are experimenting with stuff, like doing weird things with their arm action, testing stuff out, working out all of the kinks. Like, I'll save my my fire and vigor for opening day.
Absolutely.
I just want to remind everybody that the Red Sox last year got swept in 3 games by the Baltimore Orioles.
They did.
So,
oh my god!
You know, don't get too high or low until June. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they did get swept by the Baltimore Orioles, but then they famously, as Section 10 made everyone well aware, finished the first month 17-10, and they declared them a playoff team at that time. So good call on their part for that, but it is easy to rebound in the early season. We did also see the spring debut and the Boston Red Sox debut of Marcelo Meyer and Nick York, not Yorkie.
Yorkie.
Like the dog, Yorkie.
and these are guys that have been very hyped and we're all very excited for, really. And it was nice to get to see them get plugged into the lineup and go out there and play. They didn't have the best outings so far this spring, but they're still young kids. They're going to go out there. They're going to get some experience, and it's just cool to see them up with the big club.
Oh, man.
You guys have any notes on them?
Meyer's swing. That was the first time I'd really seen it in game time. That is it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I've heard the hype, but I haven't really seen it. And then you see that swing against a big league pitcher. And, he walked his first time. Actually, a pretty good base runner. He went first to third on something that a lot of 18-year-olds aren't going to know to go first to third on. So that was actually pretty nice to see that he seems to have a pretty good in-game awareness. But that swing, oh, man, that is a pretty swing. Yeah, that was my main takeaway. I saw York hit, and it was like, okay, that wasn't bad. It wasn't really. But I saw Nick York hit a grand slam last year, so like whatever. Like he's got a good swing too. It's just the first time you see it, with Mayer, you're just like, that is like a knife into butter.
To comment on the base running thing, at 19-year-olds or 18-year-olds wouldn't do. How about 30-year-olds on the current Boston Red Sox roster? This team was a tragedy when it came to base running last year. That's something like I really hope they're a lot smarter with their aggressiveness this year with the bases. Like when Christian Vasquez leads your team in stolen bases, it's a sad state of affairs. Like the absolute state of Red Sox base running, the absolute state.
Yeah, last year's Red Sox lineup was basically hit a home run or don't do anything. And to your point about base running, I'm definitely hoping that they don't turn into the Red Sox that we've seen before, where they get the bases loaded or get runners in scoring position and then they only swing for the fences. I love seeing small ball. I love seeing little C&I singles that drive in 2 runs. That gets me going right there. Seeing guys swing for the fences and pop fly or strike out with the bases juiced, that ain't it.
100% agree. And this was a real stat from last year. The Red Sox, they did make the ALCS last year. They were amazing at points. But last year, they were the worst team in baseball with a runner on third base hitting. The worst. It's a real stat.
And yet, that is how they beat the Rays in the playoffs. They had, the walk-off home run, but they had that sacrifice fly to clinch it.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's wild. Baseball. Where
that team was either the best team in the history of planet Earth at hitting last year or just complete bums who belong in single A. Like, there was no in between.
I love that. Honestly, I love that team just because.
Same here.
Yeah, it was just like they overperformed everything. It was just so much fun to watch.
And one of those guys that did overperform a lot, especially down the stretch, was Josh Taylor, who's going to be starting this year on the IL. That's another guy that when he comes back will be hopefully back to form and a very important piece in piecing together these games and getting us to Matt Barnes as the closer, who appears to be on track to have that job this year.
Don't tell Ryan Brady. Don't tell Ryan Brady that he's going to be closer.
It's going to be fun until July when Brady gets to gloat again after he starts getting lit up.
Yeah, I'm not a really big Barnes fan either. Yeah, I know he can go out there and do the job for half a season, but I haven't seen him be able to piece it together for a full season yet. And everybody's been saying like, oh yeah, he's the closer for the past 3 seasons now, but every spring training there's always question marks around it. So if he's that dominant of a closer, you would think that, that would be like, okay, we can stamp the C on that one and move on. Mariano Rivera never had question marks in spring training if he was going to be able to keep his job.
I mean, if that's the standard for who we're comparing to, then, I'd hate to...
Craig Kimbrell never had questions.
Like a Kenley Jansen, maybe?
I don't know about that with Kimbrell. At least here, he shouldn't have had questions, but I think you could definitely find some fans that...
Kimbrell's Matt Barnes is the diet version of Craig Kimbrell, because at least Kimbrell, he made the whole season, without falling apart, but then in the postseason, he fell apart. Matt Barnes only made it halfway through.
There's a true case for Kimbrell being a Hall of Famer also, so I don't know if that's... I'm not sure who are, some great Red Sox closers. Papelbon didn't really have question marks. Yeah, I would say Papelbon, but Papelbon threw a lot more strikes than those guys, too.
Obviously 13 Koji.
Yeah, oh my God, Koji.
He was dominant in 13.
I just want Koji closer every year, please.
Yeah.
If
that dude didn't get old, I would have loved to have him. But even in 13, he was 74 years old or something.
Oh, he was, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Say 04, who was closing that team? I know Timlin was giving you a lot of late innings. Who else?
That was Folk. 2004, that was Folk.
Back to Folk.
I was too
Red
young
Sox
for that
fans
shit.
have longed to hear it.
Yep. Folk, who for some reason follows me on Twitter.
What do you mean for some reason? You're the best follow on Twitter, Ed.
No, Hogdale, stop talking about yourself in the third person again. I'm sick of your humble shit.
I wish I had the Ricky Henderson confidence where I'm just talking to the third person.
I think that I could see you being like, "You the man, Hogdale. You the man."
Yeah, you the best. You the best.
He's got a mirror right beside of his computer screen, and before we go live, he actually does that. He's like he slaps himself in the chest a few times, and for the people that are watching that see the show each and every day that we come on here live, you don't see what happens immediately before. Hogdale is an animal, guys.
Oh yeah,
I'm just telling you.
I'm just going insane back here.
He does the LeBron James throw the baby powder up in the air.
No, I do the Triple H where I get the water bottle and and I just bounce on the back of the roads and spit it all over my head.
Triple H retiring from in-ring competition. Good call back on that one.
That's why he's on my mind. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
To go back to what you were saying, though, about Josh Taylor, that is a key piece of the bullpen. I think that he is because he was terrible in April and then basically unhittable for the next 3 months. And that's he's your best lefty. You have a lot more lefties now. You've got Strom and Dickman joining the team. And you've got, you've got Darwin's. And so, it's not so much an issue of lefties. It's just that he was really one of your few consistent arms. The bullpen is kind of in a weird place right now because who do you have that you really can depend on? And let's just say that Barnes is in early season Barnes form. So we'll count him. We'll count, I don't even know. Salamura sure didn't look good this year. Today. Who else do you have?
Whitlock.
You've got Whitlock, who might be a starter. Who else you have?
I say, is Rich Hill going to be in the bullpen, or is he going to be in the rotation? Either way, it's fine. I like Rich Hill as a bullpen arm. The thing is, the Red Sox bullpen is in a very weird spot because I could see it being really good, but also being completely dog shit. And I believe you either way if you told me.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, they're either at the major league level or they belong at single A.
Yeah.
No in between.
Can I just say also Josh Taylor last year? That's the thing that got me to really get off Cora's back. You know what? I believe in you. You are doing things for a reason. He kept believing in Josh Taylor until eventually he rewarded his faith by literally being the best reliever in baseball for 3 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He did.
A lot of
Rip Brandon. He died.
Brandon he's just standing there. He hasn't moved. What do you think, Hogdale? Do you think that Bloom's going to make another move? Because I've been hearing that there might be something on the trade wire.
He's a wheeling and dealing kind of guy. He really never sits idly by. He doesn't see his hands wandering and doing other things. So I definitely could see them making another move, whether for a starter or another bullpen arm. Like, he just likes shuffling shit around. I mean, he's raised bread through and through, and they love making deals.
Yeah, and for guys that you wouldn't quite expect. And I think that we're going to see some players that might have signed minor league deals that maybe didn't make the team that are going to become available. And I could definitely see, especially in the bullpen where that's been an issue, I think that we're going to see, we could see that. A move there. I mean, he already picked up that one guy whose name I'm completely blanking on, who immediately got dropped again. And they picked up Ralph Garza, who actually pitched okay for the Twins last year. I mean, it's just bullpen depth, but you need a lot of arms. You got to throw a lot of shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season. I mean, you got plenty of time to just see what works, see what doesn't work. And I'm just so excited for baseball. I'm so happy that it's almost here. Remember a few weeks ago when we were depressed and in the lockout? That was crazy.
The lockout was, honestly, I don't want to forget that so that in 5 years I can be like, oh no, they have to get something done now.
Just make a deal, please.
It was an upsetting winter, dude. I get seasonal depression as it is, but I usually have baseball to fall back on and just that sort of thing. And it was there aren't even pictures of these guys online anymore. What's going on here?
That was so Bush League from the owners and stuff. Yeah, see, you don't want to come to an agreement with us, huh? Well, we're taking all your pictures down off the website. Ooh. Your move, players.
Petty ass shit right there. I'm sorry. It was, and I was ready to go for minor league ball and everything. Honestly, I'm not financially affected by anything that happens with the majors, but none of it feels right without it there. It's just such a piece of normalcy. And, the last few years have really not been normal, and having something that's so major taken away, oh boy, that hit me good.
What was funny over this course of the week is a quote from Red Sox legend Dave Roberts. He just straight up said the Dodgers are going to win the World Series, and in a way I really do respect this man's balls. He's just fucking laying it all on the line, nah, we're the best, we're gonna win. What of it?
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to respect that. You got to, I mean, what's he supposed to say? Well, we might have a good shot. I think we've got a good. No, just say that you're going to win it all. What are people going to do? Be disappointed if you don't? Oh, that man's a liar. He said we were going to win it and then we didn't. He's such a liar. No, what's he supposed to do?
Now joining us, good friend of the pod, noted host of the Pesky Report, Brad Chandler, live from his car. Brad, how are you doing?
I'm doing, guys. I just noticed that Brandon has some issues. Fucking guy, dude. This is what happens when you have Florida internet, huh?
No, I'm pretty sure my kid just pulled up a Ben 10 video or something on YouTube, and it just completely just destroyed me.
That motherfucker Ben 10.
I was always more of a Kevin 11 guy myself.
All right, guys. I'm gonna head out.
Okay, well, thanks for saying hi, Brad. Fucking asshole. You have a good one.
Also, just to say what I posted up earlier, you can't be a starter if you have 2 pitches.
Wow. Robbie Ray says hi.
That was friend of the show, Brad Chandler, calling in from his car.
Yeah.
Was he looking at us, or was he looking at his phone? Was he looking at the road?
Yes. This is a really professional production we put together. I really pride ourselves on, our production quality and standards. And I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, it happens. We're in a world that is infinitely connected, and sometimes it just doesn't like to work. It is what it is.
Brandon, we were just talking about this. What was your thought on Dave Roberts just coming out and saying the Dodgers are going to win the World Series?
That Red Sox legend Dave Roberts may have just sealed his fate as a manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers if they don't win it all this year, because that's a pretty big guarantee. And then you think about the roster that he has in LA, and if they're not able to win the big one with arguably the best roster ever assembled, then if I'm the Dodgers ownership group, my patience is definitely worn thin. You can't go out there and win the National League West 54 years in a row and only have one World Series to show for it in a 60-game season.
The Mickey Mouse
guys.
season.
I've got some news, some breaking news that the next round of cuts were announced.
Oh, really?
Spring trading cuts. The following were optioned to AAA Worcester: Ronaldo Hernandez, Connor Wong, and Jaron Duran. And the following were reassigned to minor league camp. And one of those guys, I'll just start with it to ruin the surprise. Fitzy is one of those guys. Roberto Ramos, Silvio Brancho, Taylor Cole, Michael Felice, Darren Gillis, Jeff Hoffman, Zach Kelly, Roldani Baldwin, and tomorrow's guest on the podcast, Cole Katam, all reassigned to minor league camp.
Okay.
Man, that guy, that's an episode tomorrow night. You mentioned Cole coming on here, and Brad will be back on tomorrow night, not from the wheel of his car, but at his desk. And you guys are going to have Cole on here, and that's one that all of the listeners, you need to try to make sure that you're watching live, because this dude's mustache is big league.
Oh yeah,
big league mustache, 100%.
He's ready, and honestly, he's 56th on the Sox prospects top 60. He's played in the Arizona Fall League last year. He had a pretty good season, made it up to Double-A. So he's somebody that has been through a lot of baseball already, and it's going to be a really interesting interview. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of took a detour with all that, and I know I gave my opinion on the Dave Roberts, but do you guys agree? Do you think
the Dodgers love him so much as a manager. I really think anything short of killing a man won't get him fired, especially since even if it is a Mickey Mouse season, he won a World Series. Honestly.
I mean, I think this is it for him. If he doesn't win the World Series this year, I think it's curtains.
He's done.
I mean, he's been in the playoffs 6 out of 6 years since he's been there. I think he's won a World Series. I think he's okay.
Like, how are you gonna come out and just literally say, yeah, we're just gonna win the World Series, dude? Like, what of it?
Honestly, I think the reason that he wasn't fired after last year was the whole Bauer situation kind of stole the show, and they were like, okay, we'll give you one more. We're also going to give you Freddie Freeman. Add another MVP to this roster. I think extension or not, I think if he doesn't deliver on his promise, I think it's over. And another guy that's made a promise that or a guarantee, if you will, that he'll be a World Series champion is the new Yankee, KNF.
Oh yeah, Isaiah Kiner Falefa, man.
IKF, that's right.
Yeah.
I like IKF.
Hey, he said you can call him whatever you want as long as it's World Series champ at the end of the day.
So who's a quick question? Who's the Orioles shortstop right now?
Is it still Richie Martin? I don't,
because I want to say noted worst shortstop in the division. Trevor Story. Isaiah Kiner Falefa, noted worst shortstop in the division, has something to say.
I don't think that he's. I think whoever the Orioles have is probably a little worse there.
Yeah, right. I was I wanted to say that. It's who do the Orioles have? It's some dude.
I would contend though that the Red Sox have two better shortstops than
they
him.
do.
Well, the Red Sox have two of the best three shortstops in Major League Baseball on one team. I'm okay with it. And, I made the point a few episodes ago. I love the fact that if the Red Sox are able to keep Xander and Trevor Story, then when the shift goes away, you've got two shortstops. That's beautiful. Those guys can cover more ground than the average second baseman. So you would think less balls are going to get through. Your defense is going to be elite. I love it.
I obviously am excited for this baseball season, but it's going to be so interesting when the shift gets banned, like how things change in baseball. It's going to be such like a massive deal. Like it's probably going to be like one of the most fun seasons we've seen when it does happen next year.
Yeah. I told you guys we try to keep it to about an hour, but we do need to get to some of our user questions before we get off the air today. So let's go ahead and jump into those before we kill any more time with me losing internet and stuff. One of the questions that we got was via text message from our good friend Vinny. He said, how could the Sox rotation benefit from trading for Montes or Manaea? Also, where does Duran start the year? Which Ed is already
spoilers.
Ed already let us know that one.
Montes or Manaea would obviously benefit the team tremendously. Fun fact about Montes, he was actually initially a Red Sox. He was signed as a Red Sox and then traded for Jake Peavy. So fun fact about Frankie Montes. I think he's the kind of workhorse that they could really use. You put him when everybody's in full health, you put him in the number 3 spot and just watch him go. I also think that the A's you're not getting him unless you deal one of Mayer, York, or Cassis. So, Buyer. But do you want to use one of those blue chips on a guy that's here for 2 years? And, so that's the question with it. They would obviously help the rotation a lot.
I mean, yeah, it would help the rotation, and also it would help the bullpen, too, because you're shoving one of those solid rotation arms into the bullpen as a long man. So, obviously, it would help the team tremendously, but, I'm not willing to give up a blue chipper for Montes. The Red Sox, love their prospects, and really rightfully so. They got some studs in there. I really hope Cassis can come up by the end of the year. It's going to be so electric when he comes up.
Tim is not a fan of Refsnyder making the team, apparently.
Salty on behalf of Fitzy, and you know what? I respect it.
Fitz Ted Williams Jr.
Yeah.
Another user question we have is from Twitter, and it's the Twitter handle @GrumpyGreensman. I guess he works on a golf course or something, maybe.
Great at.
Is Pavetta going to shine? And I think Pavetta's already been shining since he became a member of the Boston Red Sox, and I think that will continue to be true to form this season. Like we said earlier, Chaim Bloom stealing Pavetta from the Phillies was an absolute stroke of genius, and that is why I stan Chaim Bloom.
Yeah. I think we all stand Chaim Bloom. Almost everyone on the podcast does. I think Ryan Brady's probably the only one who doesn't, but he's also started to come around since he signed Story. So,
Bloom traded for Pavetta, who's like his husband. So
it's true. He did do that.
It's true. He should be more of a Bloom fan, huh?
If you think about it, yeah, he really should be. What a goon! Noted goon, Ryan Brady.
I think what we saw from him last year is going to be the worst that you get out of him. I think that there's more there. I think that he's potentially the kind of guy who's not going to be he's not going to have a lot of innings for you necessarily. He'll get you through 5 though. And I think that he could have a sub-3 ERA. I think that he's good enough for that.
And in the postseason, he's like the best reliever ever. So,
but you're going to,
Yeah, best reliever of all time in the postseason.
He's so good. God, I just hate everything when I think about that ALCS and just how the team let Pavetta down and that heroic performance. It just hurts. It hurts my soul.
I mean, if you think about it, the past 2 notable postseasons for the Red Sox, we had starting pitchers that put on heroic performances in the bullpen, and Nate and Pavetta. Now these guys are pretty much fixtures in the front end of the rotation, and Red Sox fans absolutely love them. So that just goes to show, if you want to be a Red Sox legend, you have to do something significant in the postseason, and then people will think that you can do no wrong. Brock Holt.
Well, yeah, I mean, look for how many years people shit on David Price because, he doesn't do anything in the postseason. And then some of that slander finally went away when he did show up and showed out, gave some really solid postseason outings. Like, yeah, this fan base gives zero fucks about the regular season. Like, genuinely.
Well, I mean, like I mentioned Brock Holtz deliberately. He has the only cycle in postseason history, but he's been signed to a minor league deal with the Atlanta Braves. But Red Sox fans are still like, we should have brought him back to be a starter. He's the guy. He's the guy, kid. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, just the greatest man of all time, Brock Holt. Love that guy.
Yeah. But guys, I appreciate you joining on the show today, and I appreciate everybody that's been tuned in, listening, and commenting along with us. It's been a lot of fun. I do want to have a regular season segment on our Sunday show where we talk about the guys down at Worcester a little bit and talk about maybe them coming up and kind of showcase a little bit of the farm system. We've got Ed on the show who does a lot with SoxProspects.com. So why not tap into that knowledge bank just a little bit and talk about these prospects that are coming along? I think that's one thing that our Sunday show can definitely have that differentiates us from a lot of other Red Sox podcasts out there. And plus, it's just another opportunity to talk about how great Chaim Bloom is because he's taken our farm system from the shambles that Dave Dombrowski left it in, and now they're competing to be a top 10 farm system in the entire major leagues. So good on him and good for that. Guys, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think we got everything. I think we
got everything.
Hogdale 2024.
Hogdale 2024. So get out there and hit the ballots whenever they are ready. And for Ed Hogdale, I've been Brandon Brewer, and this is the Pesky Report. We thank you guys so much for joining us and for getting your Red Sox news from us. We're out of here.
See you.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pesky Report. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Thank you for listening